I've got no experience in living in the countryside. I've never lived in Japan before. I don't speak the language. It's a completely incredible new experience. Got these beautiful mushrooms. Look at that. That's amazing.
原木しいたけ。しいたけ in
What's that? Animal guts or something?
no, it's
It's all
cognac
squishy.
made from
Oh, I
cognac.
can't eat that. Looks like a kidney or something. It's another Yamaha. We've got 5 of them. And he's given us this one as well. Oh my goodness. It's Morris though. I like that. Yeah, no. Don't know. Get this bar going. Got my wood. Got no f***ing idea how to do this. I've been in Japan for 2 years. Call it the Kura retreat because the Kura is the guest house that we've converted, and really just wanted to give some backstory to you guys out there. First of all, as soon as we found this place, we fell in love with it. There was an old gentleman that lived here. He grew up in this house. This house is around the Kominka, which is about 7 rooms. It needs a lot of repair. This is the workshop building, which you might have seen in previous stuff that we've done. And yeah, you know, there's something majestic and something beautiful about this whole area and the history of the house. You know, everything, include as an example this workshop, you know, there's a presence of absence. You know, very often we live in really busy closed spaces surrounded by concrete and and the hustle and bustle of life, whereas here in the countryside, in the soft rolling greens, hills and mountains of Aichi, Japan, there's a majestic beauty, there's a slower pace of life, and although we're not, you know, we're 2 hours from civilization, we are in our own kind of environment. You know, you could walk into the mountains and it would be very dangerous. You know, there's 50 miles of green mountains, you know, most directions around here. And yeah, you know, to come here has been an incredible journey for me, and the journey is only beginning because there's so much to learn. And I never ever was a Kominka person or someone that thought I'd live in Japan. After the lockdowns, it kind of felt like us, as a family, my wife's Japanese, that we wanted to, you know, live more in balance, work-life balance, you know, and we kind of really went through a lot of challenges in the UK. So for us to come to Japan, and we looked around Japan, and we was very inspired actually, because we saw, we went and visited a guest house in Wakayama, which is southwest Japan, and we saw a old Kominka style house that had been restored, and we really loved the old feeling of, you know, of the countryside, and the old feeling of the house, and everything just felt, you know, it was made with a hand. It was personalized, you know, and there was something almost a memory, it felt lived in, and there was a kind of history to the place. So when we found this place, we was looking for more space. We got around 5 acres, probably more, because, you know, we haven't measured it correctly, but there's a lot of space. We've got the Kominka compound, which consists of the Kura, the guest house, the old storehouse, which is a white wooden structured framed building with like a kind of plaster on the exterior, and it's very strong, insulative building, and we did a lot of work restoring that. We got experts in, we converted that into a habitable space. There was a lot of rubbish in there. We got a Japanese architect, Sawa-san, who's an excellent guy, excellent master, and he worked with a local carpenter who was very experienced. In the compound area, we've got also the main Kominka. It's about 150 years old. There's 2 floors to it. The first floor is habitable. The second floor isn't, it's more like a barn. When you open the doors, climb up onto the roof and then go inside. And there was damage to the roof. There's a lot of refurbishment that needs doing by UK standards, by Japanese modern standards as well. The architect and the carpenter also repaired the roof. There was a major beam that had broken and it was starting to sag, and that got repaired. So we kind of stopped the house from falling down, which was our main priority. There's so much potential, you know, that's one of the things that we feel very strongly about in this place. There's so much potential, and I'll talk about our vision and our dream for what we can do in the Kura retreat. We've also got the Kominka, we've got the Kura, we've got the workshop. We call it the workshop. We're in the workshop. It's small, there's many parts of it. It's a very old constructed, hand constructed building, and it needs to be completely renovated, completely. And my vision is that we've got the compound area, and then in front of the house we've got what we call the garden. It's our growing area. It was actually a rice paddy, and then over the years they were growing food there, and that's a very interesting zone. We've had to immediately zone that up with scaffolding poles and zinc mesh, galvanized steel, just to keep the animals. We've got a lot of animal pressure, so we've got deer, wild boar, we've got monkeys, and they would tear the gardens up if left unchecked, right? So we're slowly building the barrier as well around the whole property. So we've got this garden at the front, we call it. We've also got what we call the rockery, which is where there's a main pine tree, really old manicured pine tree, and we've got herbs and stuff that we started to kind of terraform and colonise around there. Then at the back of the Kominka, we've got what we call the lower forest, and that's where we've got 2 tea fields, and now we've started an orchard where we started planting the orchard. And then after that, we've got what's called the upper forest. The upper forest is the part that banks up onto the mountain. It's a small mountain by Western standards and Japanese standards, but it's still a mountain considered in Japan, the words they'd use, right? So we've got quite a big area to manage, and there's a lot of challenges with that. There's something so beautiful about it. I mean, there's nothing more amazing than waking up in the morning and you're looking at the soft rolling green mountains in the distance, and the sun coming up, and you know, you hear all the animals, the birds and the bees and all that kind of thing. So it's really good for the soul, you know. Our vision for this place, the place needs a lot of love, and we're working within our means. I'm not a carpenter, I'm not an electrician, I'm not anything like that. So it's completely new skills for me, and I love it. I love learning. I love researching about things. And I suppose our first thing, our plan is to set up the Kura guest house, so that people can come and experience this place, and then to start to transform and increase the biodiversity and the usefulness of the land. So what I mean by that is a bit of a monoculture going on, where we've got 1 or 2 major trees and things like that. We've got the cypress and the cedar, beautiful trees, took years to grow, and managing that forest is something that is starting to get done now. And then our second task is really to put a barrier around it because of the animal pressure, deers, wild boar, that sort of thing. There's also a safety aspect to that, because wild boars could be quite troublesome and potentially dangerous. Also, the monkeys are starting to realise that we live here, it's not their land. And I call our strategy for scaring away animals Stone Age tactics, you know. So there's nothing wrong with walking outside the house and grunting, go away, off you go, off my land, you know. That technique, that really kind of actually helps. I play a lion roaring sounds, so get on a large speaker and blast out the forest, so that, you know, they hear a large tiger, and they're probably thinking, hang on, there hasn't been a tiger in Japan since ever. But it actually does work. It's like territorially, sonic attack, you know. So we're kind of slowly pushing these animals out, and we're cementing our place in the animal kingdom of where we are. My dream would be to be able to make this a place where people would come and visit you know, and stay and experience the magic of the countryside. You know, often people don't get the chance in their busy lives, and to be able to have a place where they could come and, you know, camp or stay in the guest house, or just experience the countryside if they're hiking in the area, would mean a lot to us. And you know, we want to partake in stewardship of the property. And you know, it is a piece of history, this house. You know, when we came, just in this workshop alone, you know, I haven't really touched anything. I took the rubbish out, but I've kind of left everything because it kind of feels like memories. You know, there was a guy in here who was an expert carpenter, and he probably made this building. You know, it's solid as a rock, no nails. Well, you'll see a few nails, but a lot of these old buildings didn't use nails. It all fits together and slots together and wedged in. And many a times I've come in here looking for a tool, and I've spoke out and said thanks for leaving those tools here. You know, so I'm really thankful about that. And that reminds me as well that often in life you're given everything that you need. You're given everything you need, and all you've got to do is do it. So I feel really strongly about that. So I kind of feel like a steward, a guardian of this piece of history, you know. And Japan has lower in population, and more people move into the city, but the trend is globally that people are more interested in the countryside. They are interested in living in a more sustainable and peaceful and more connected to nature. And I think that everyone senses that we've kind of become detached from our own, you know, heritage. And this countryside living is the old school way of life, you know. As someone that's never grew up in the countryside, I come from a suburban town in England. For me to live in this environment, it's drawn a lot of things deep out of me that I think that I would have never have considered. Resourcefulness of the Japanese countryside people is incredible. You know, I often find sprockets and spribbs and things, and I think someone's made that up to do a job, you know. So let's talk about the Kominka for a moment. The Kominka is a large farm-style house. Remember, a lot of property prices in Japan are inverse to the pretty much Western countries, where I'm not a Kominka person. There's many people that are Kominka people that love the specific design. I think the specific design of traditional Japanese houses, Kominkas, are incredibly beautiful and functional. That's one thing I realise now. You know, the wooden frames all slot together, and the whole building can move and breathe, and that architectural design is an age-old tested design in this part of the world, you know, where humidity and the weather can get very hot and it can get very cold, and the building needs to be able to breathe with humidity but also flex in the unlikely event of an earthquake. In regards to earthquakes, because of Mount Myojin, touch wood, as we'd say, for good luck, we're on one of the slopes of the mountain in the area, so we tend to get more shock waves. You know, the house it kind of, you'll hear a bang and you'll feel like a wave go through the house, like almost a bomb went off down the road, and the whole building squeaks and squirms. The building's designed to breathe and go with that. Now, obviously, modern construction techniques in Japan, legislation and rules and regulation increased over the years to be more stringent. So a lot of these IKEA houses, and IKEA means empty house or abandoned house, or Kominka houses, you know, the traditional Japanese houses, wouldn't comply with modern Japanese earthquake standards. But by testament of the fact that this house has been here for 150 years, another interesting fact about this property as well is we've got a well. We've got a 6 metre, you know, a 1.2 metre diameter well that was made in sort of 40s, that goes down around 6 metres, and there's pure fresh water that comes up from the the groundwater level, even though we're 637 metres up. And that's something that it's another little mini project that I want to do. So this house and this property has got two wells. It's got the well in the courtyard area behind the house, and there's also a well down the side of the cliff that's where we've got wasabi growing naturally, and there's these huge toads, frogs, a Japanese giant frog I think it's called, or giant toad. It's a real big thing. We had to give it a name because he jumps around and eats bugs outside the house, and we noticed he had some babies, so it's a very beautiful, well, I don't know whether I can call it beautiful, but it is beautiful. It's quite big and slimy. The biodiversity in this area is something I've never experienced before. I mean, from the range of insects, all the different creepy crawlies and caterpillars. I've seen so many insects, I've had to Google it and check it. And, we've got snakes as well. We've got poisonous snakes. We've got non-poisonous snakes. So we've got amphibians as well, with the Japanese giant frog or toad or whatever it is. And we've also got all these animals that are kind of pressuring on. We've got an incredible biodiversity and natural habitat in this area. We're on the edge of the forest, essentially, and the edge of the forest is always a very fertile place. And we haven't even unlocked the growing capability of this area as well. I mean, we could plant so much more plants and trees and fruit-bearing plants that are native to this area, plus bring in other stuff from around Japan, and really unlock that. And then animal pressure will increase on that. From our research, they will come in and take their share of it. But overproduction is my philosophy on that, so I'm not too worried. In terms of our kind of general overvision for the property and the place, I mean, we would love to be able to build a recording studio here, with a kind of restaurant, cafe space. The kitchen, I mean, our kitchen floor's bouncy, so we want to put concrete. Under the Kominka there's a crawl space which is bare mud, so we've got all this breathing going on from the natural earth, and that's kind of added moisture to the bottom of the Kominka, so we are researching and considering about modern methods to be able to lock that moisture into the ground. We'll also put a little bit of concrete around the house just to kind of keep the water away and flow the water down. Sometimes we get some heavy rains. We want to build a rainwater catchment system as well, rainwater filtration, passive watering of the front garden grow area. We also want to do kind of outdoor kitchen as well. So if we was to be able to have an internal professional kitchen, we'd be able to put sort of events and kind of heating and that sort of things going, and bring people and be able to cook different cuisine for the local community. The orchard area, which we've started to plant as well, we need to continue planting the various different species, and we've planted orange, lemon. We've got a kiwi tree already that's produced around 200 kiwis last year, but hasn't produced anything this year, so not sure if it's an on year, off year. Also, we're testing the different plants, so I expected goji berries to do really well here. I mean, we're only 637 metres up, and I assume that from the research that goji berry is a Himalayan plant that's just not done very well here. So we're looking at about 30% of the plants that we put in the ground tend to die, which is okay, that's not too bad, but it allows us to be able to test what works. There's various factors why they die. I think it's just weather. We have a very extreme hot in the summer, got up to 36, 38 internally in the house, and then it's gone down to, we've just had our first frost and we're at early December. So it's been a lot of testing and seeing, and the main Kominka, we would love to be able to get some kind of heating system in there. We did replace the boiler at great expense because the boiler was completely fried and needed a new boiler. Lo and behold, it was a Mitsubishi boiler, which was great. Love to connect the well to the water system as well. We need to get the water in the well tested, and then some kind of filtration and pump system on that. I'd like to be able to build the second floor and put rooms in there so that we can have visitors come over and stay and increase the amount of visitors that we can take. Also, we want to build camping areas as well up the upper forest. So we do want a tractor to come in and kind of flatten some of the areas so that cars can come on and park, and people can do the camping experience. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But there's something so beautiful and majestic about this place. There's something so timeless and slow. You know, that everything is history. You know, the history is rich, and the lands are rich, and it just needs some love and tender care. As time goes by, we're going to be unfolding and doing more